Thanks again to Carbon Health for being our presenting sponsor. If you're a regular here, you guys know about Carbon Health. I talk about Carbon Health all of the time, and they help with things like COVID, cold and flu testing, antibiotic prescriptions for things like infections, UTIs, STDs. They have primary care services in California and Massachusetts. But if you are new here, and thank you for stopping by the way, and you should also know that they can help with injuries also. Most of their locations have imaging or x-ray machines so they can diagnose strains, sprains, and fractures if you unfortunately become injured. And I know, unfortunately, not everybody will be near one of their 120 locations. I get it. But they do have virtual urgent care services for states like California, New York, Florida, and several others. So thanks once again to Carbon Health. There is a link in the description for them. They're the best. They've been with us for a bit. You should be too. All right, let's get to it. Happy Monday, guys. Excited for today's conversation. It's all about The Flash. So if you haven't seen the movie yet, you don't care about spoilers, well, then do what you will. However, if you're like, hey, you guys are talking spoilers, yeah, that's why it's called The Flash Spoiler Discussion. So, but those who are excited to be here because you want to talk spoilers with us, welcome. Thanks for being here. And join the channel, man. 100,000. We're trying to get there. We need you guys to help. We're at 80,000. We're moving on in, and we hope that you will join us as well. So this week, this Friday, we're going to be in New York. We hope you guys will get tickets to see us. thekristianharloff.com. Check it out. Come join us. So, The Flash. It's me, it's Coy, and it's Winston, and we're here talking about all things in the latest of the DCEU. Really, and the kind of the wrap up that it was of the DCEU, because that's our first spoiler. Because I do think it was a big wrap up of what Snyder put down there. Not to say that we'll never see any of these characters again, but the big question was, were we going to see the end of this thing? How were they going to do it? I thought that they did it fairly well. So we'll talk to the guys and see if they agree, disagree. So let's get right into it, man. Let's talk Flash spoilers. It's a big thing, capes and cows. Let's do it. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the big thing, capes and cows. It's myself, Winston A. Marshall, Coy Jandreau. What's up, guys? Nice to have you back. I haven't seen you since we stopped recording on the last episode.
Yep, 30 seconds ago.
So we got this spoiler. I've been waiting to talk to you guys about this for a bit because we've talked about it kind of off air. Mm-hmm. But now to really talk about it and get into it, I want to actually start with the post-credit scenes.
Yeah.
Because I think that that's the main question a lot of people are wondering, like, how the hell are they going to do this? Because when I saw this movie for CinemaCon, it was, I would say, radically different because the two post-credit scenes that we saw were not there. And I think they obviously did that on purpose. I think it was a smart move. They didn't want it to leak and all that. But so what happens in this movie at the very end of it, after the Flash and after Barry's gone through all this stuff, he shows up, he's coming out of the courtroom, and I love that they stuck to the rules of everything that they had set up. He moves a can, and he does that same spaghetti thing that Michael Keaton told him about, but it's not as impactful as it was, but it's not his universe. So he wants to stay there. He wants to stay there because his dad is innocent. So he decides this time, I ain't leaving, and Clooney shows up. And what it also set up for us, I thought, I told Winston this, I thought that they were going to, maybe they did, I don't know, but in the movie theater, they're going to start putting out like the Pattinson version, because I heard there's a Pattinson version. There's a Michael Keaton version. There could be other versions, I don't know, because he tells Arthur that in the Aquaman thing. He tells me, he goes, yeah, everywhere I go, all the Batman, they're different Batman. He goes, well, you're the same in every one. So that means that Aquaman movie that's coming out in December is an Elseworlds movie now, because he might still know Barry, but that's a different, that's not going to play into the ones that we do.
But I think the other thing that it could make because you said this when we got out of the theater, that also could mean that Aquaman could not be in Elseworlds and could be a part of the DCU because
he's the same everywhere.
If he is the same everywhere, then that technically could apply to whatever universe that you wanted to put it in. But I think that was a smart way. We kept talking about it's Flashpoint. Because it's Flashpoint, that means that you could completely reset whatever you wanted by setting it up to the point of him being now in this world with the Clooney Batman and everything else, you have kind of officially set up, okay, cool, that's the end of this universe's storyline here. This is where this Barry lives now.
Yeah.
And so if you do want to revisit it, or Clooney for whatever, because the funny thing is, I would even hate Clooney playing Batman.
Give him another shot.
We're just gonna give him another opportunity.
It's not. I mean, the late great Joel Schumacher is not, and I don't even blame that movie on him.
No, the studios are.
Yeah, it was a studio. That's so. Yeah, Clooney coming back is one thing, but to go off what Winston said, also on the flip side too, that it allows him to potentially play it in the DCU. It also allows the opportunity to play Lobo if he wanted to, but it could contradict a little bit what Barry says, because Barry says that in every other universe you're the same.
Yeah.
Except the DCU where you're Lobo.
Or you're Lobo for some reason, somehow.
But he could also be both in that regard. And on top of that, Lobo being the ghostly white, like essentially other cosmic being, there's no way they couldn't just put enough makeup on him that, like, yes, we know that is
we know
Momoa, but like he looks drastically different than what he looks like as far as,
Yeah. But either way, though, Coy, I thought they did a good job of kind of that. They answered that question to me.
Yeah.
Like, it made more sense. Like, oh, he's trapped in a different.
Yeah.
So even if if the Flash doesn't do what they want it to do and they decide we're not going to make any more, he's trapped in a different Elseworld, and so be it.
He's with his dad. That's
we close
thing.
the loop. It's done, and they explain the Aquaman. However, if it does really well, they want to do a sequel. They can make it Elseworlds movies now, and they could do it with Aquaman. And if Aquaman 2 does really well, they can make it an Elseworlds movie. If it bombs, then that's the end.
It's a cake and eat it too situation with all of it. You can really incorporate it, and that's how, like, with Blue Beetle going to be the first DCU character, you really have a lot to play with going forward. It's kind of a clean slate, and they did use Flashpoint like we all wanted them to make that clean slate. I really like the George Clooney take, because it was like one line of dialogue was poking fun at George Clooney, and I really like that it was like he's always apologized for Batman. Now he's got to do it publicly.
Yeah.
Like, I've always heard legend, he'll give you like $20 for your movie ticket back, and now he's like, the one line he got at him was like, "You're not fucking Batman," and like then he's acknowledging that. I love that.
That was the only thing, though, that I'll say. Guardians of the Galaxy, they announced that they were going to do or they announced, but there was reports that they were going to drop an F-bomb.
Yeah.
And it worked brilliantly. It worked so well. This was unnecessary.
Oh, I loved it.
But it wasn't. It was unnecessary. It worked, but there was no reason. Like, the frustration of Peter Quill inside of that particular scene when it happens, you're like, yeah, it was brilliant.
But that's also because apparently he improvised that. That wasn't they had the moment of them not getting the door. They just improvised it longer, and then he eventually broke it. Like, will you open the fucking door?
Yeah.
And that by itself, they were like, all right, keep it.
It worked.
That's our one. Right. Keep it.
But it worked, and it was organic, and it worked. This one, I thought you needed it in that Guardians. I thought it worked. I think it pushed forward exactly the frustration. This was unnecessary, but it was a great scene, though. I liked it, because remember when I saw it for the second time, I'm like, well, I think actually, because I had heard. So again, I had heard that Pattinson from one person said, I saw this 2 weeks ago, and it was Pattinson. And then when I went for a CinemaCon, it was no one. Like, they cut it right before so you can see anybody. Then I heard it was Keaton.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, so who are we going to? So I was expecting either Pattinson or Keaton.
So
when I got Clooney, I was like, oh, because, those reports were out there as well.
Yeah.
See, I didn't hear that. The only thing that I heard, and I'm grateful that I have the memory of a goldfish, because was the Cage stuff. That Nicolas Cage's.
Oh, you forgot until you saw it.
You
saw it on an Instagram post.
My God,
sort of. You guys had been talking about it in shadows, and I was like, oh God, I hope I don't see. And then I randomly was like, wait, what? And then it was right out of my mind by the time I got to the movie. And then I was
great.
like, oh right, Nicolas Cage. But we had an interesting conversation at the theater too about why some of the stuff was left out. If we're seeing all these other worlds, I understand you got time. You don't have all the time in the world.
Oh yeah.
But like how. We got.
I debunked your theory though fast.
Yes, because of
say it first.
So originally I had said because you didn't have Brandon Roth, you didn't have Grant Gustin, you didn't have any of these other like TV DC like major elements. You didn't have Smallville,
right?
Any of that. So my thought process was, they were just trying to maybe keep it to just DC and films at that particular moment, and because Roth was in Crisis on Infinite Earths and played Superman in it, they probably just left him out because of, like, you've kind of branched off into the TV side of things and whatnot, and that was your chance to be Superman again and all that kind of stuff. And then Kristian goes, Yeah, but what about the other Reeves, the Superman?
They had George Reeves. They had Adam West.
Butcher About TV.
And which TV.
But Adam had a movie, so that's where I did. It was a movie.
Fine,
Batman '66 was
George,
a movie.
So George Reeves, and then also the other one was the original Flash.
Jay
Garrick.
Yeah. He's running around.
So it's an equal mix of TV and film, pretty much.
It is, yeah,
and a conceptual film.
But no, because when Winston first said it, I was, I was like, oh no, because of those two. But that was the thing that we talked about briefly on Friday, where we can dive into a little bit. There's a lot we're going to talk about in this movie that we all really, really liked, right? The thing that I liked the least, some of the CGI was like Scorpion King bad. Like Scorpion King bad, like really, really bad. Like as much as I wanted to love all those reveals, like it was cool to see Christopher Reeve and Helen Slater. That was awesome, but it looked like it looked bad. The Nicolas Cage stuff was awesome to see. Looked terrible. Yeah, a lot of the CGI was like 90s, early 2000s level.
I was very forgiving of that CGI. Anything in the Speed Force, and technically it felt like we were watching that through the Speed Force. Sure. I was very forgiving. The parts that I wasn't as forgiving, it was a funny scene, but it just to have the CGI do that.
Which one
sucked was the opening hospital scene.
Oh, with the babies and stuff.
I thought that was hysterical, and I'm here for that scene.
Yeah,
but the CGI being so cartoonish took me out of it.
I'm with you on that because that scene was awesome.
So funny.
The scene was
such
awesome.
genius dark humor,
and the way that they played it. And
put the
how
baby in the
microwave. Yeah. The baby, the acid, and he shoves
hilarious.
it back into the acid.
Lines it all up. He's eating, and he goes after the food first, and then to get himself energy. It was. That scene was fantastic and directed masterfully.
Yes,
agreed.
But the CGI was the worst part of it.
And then they had to hold on it because of the style of it. Because of the Speed Force, it was all slow-mo. So the CGI became worse because you're holding on it. And then the credit scene was with the dog that was also rough CGI because you're like holding on it.
Bad, yeah.
And so like, it was really hard because I love Muschietti's directing in this. I think he did a really good job playing with the Burton, playing with the Snyder, playing with his own style, because it felt like and I said this from the trailer, felt like an artist's like jam page where it's like one artist doing this and this and this, and he was able to capture the Burton, but then his Flash felt like his directing. Like Muschietti put his flavor on it to the point where I'm excited for his Batman if that happens.
I think it will.
So when and if that happens, I've now seen what he can do with different director style, incorporating his own. I hope whatever caused the CGI, more time, more money, whatever it needs to be, because it did distract from his directing when I wasn't consciously going, okay, remember, that's a different artist, that's a different style, that's a different thing. His framing, genius. The directing was working for everything except what was in the frame of ones and zeros.
Exactly. And the only way that you could have potentially gotten away with that, if maybe it's like we don't maybe necessarily have the tech to make sure that for all of these scenes or the money to do all that, then make it every time that Barry is using his powers, if that's how he sees the world,
unreality.
if the Speed Force is essentially cartoon forcing what he sees, then you've given me a reason. Otherwise, it's just this blaring like you're trying to do something awesome and it's getting hamstrung.
Yeah, it clearly was not.
With the budget, how?
Yeah, but because the problem was the reshoots. There were a lot of reshoots, man.
Right.
There was a lot of reshoots with the Henry Cavill of it all. Muschietti has talked about how this was supposed to lead into what's a crisis on
Infinite Earths,
in for the DCEU. So, and they had to change everything once Saffron and Gunn came in about. But this is very similar to the same conversation I had about Indiana Jones, right? And I wonder. I'm going to say something that VFX artists and people who are watching this who know this business. Well, I'm coming at this as a very naive question. But I wonder how much more expensive is it to do like a deep fake of Christopher Reeve and Helen Slater than it is to do that whatever the hell that was, the aging and why the hesitancy? Because it's clearly, you look at that channel Shamook who got hired by Lucasfilm, and he made his career and got hired by Lucasfilm because he changed the face of Mark Hamill in what they did in the de-aging side of it and whatever this is that they use for this scene. And he put the deepfake on it, and it looks significantly better. So I wonder, like, is it more expensive? Is it harder to do? And the answer very well might be yes. But
I think it's also time. If I
what I
know
mean.
deepfake, I don't know deepfakes that well, but I know
that can do it like that.
Well, the actual computer processing time, because you have to it has to learn it and relearn it and relearn it. So it might have been just a matter of like, this movie's coming out in a month because of all the reshoots. I don't know how much time they had for that last scene to render it.
I know. I'd love to have that conversation.
Same.
No,
It's fascinating, because I have all the respect in the world for visual effects artists, because they don't get the love for the stuff we don't notice.
No, for sure. And it's like, and how much time that you probably talk to VFX artists, and they're probably like, dude, we had no time to do that. It's the same way where I used to. I'm a lot more forgiving now of like, and I actually, strangely enough, I've really grown to like the Rogue One score. And I used to talk about how much I was was not a fan of it. And Michael Giacchino had 2 weeks to do that score. Because Desplat was supposed to do it or something, but it's something between 2 or 3 weeks, something crazy that he came up with. This he's a musical genius,
truly.
And you look at it, and even the judging of that, you're like, the guy had to get into us and come up with everything like that. And maybe that's the same with how much they had to come up with certain things, the baby effects and all that. But
I'm less forgiving of that for the Flash reshoots or not, because this movie has been supposed to have come out for like 5-6 years.
Well,
and so even with said reshoots and even with everything,
but they didn't shoot it 5 or 6 years ago.
No, I understand that, but they have. I don't know how much of that footage has lasted since then and how much it's changed over time.
Well, you're not wrong, because remember, we saw this thing at Fandom. It was the first trailer, and that was like 2 or 3 years, 3 years ago. So they shot a ton of this.
And also knowing that this is supposed to, like, Warner Brothers put all their eggs in this one basket. Like there is so much here that this was supposed to be like the most beautiful send off, the beginning. This is their Super Bowl. This is their Oscars. This is the moment to like really linchpin stuff. It is hard to be forgiving of something that like you've already moved it God knows how many times.
Right.
Why wouldn't have just
get it perfect?
Made sure.
Yeah, I get it. Maybe and I guess that kind of brings us into our next point of maybe they're just really confident on the story, because that's one of my biggest, I think, positives. I love the story of this one.
Agree.
I like how they played it. And like we said on this show many times over now, I want to address this. I should address it up top, but I'm addressing it now. If you were not able to see this movie because of the Ezra Miller situation, if you still have very strong opinions on Ezra Miller and couldn't get past it and all that, understood. But the reason why we're not really going to dive into that here is because we're talking about the movie itself, and we're going to talk about the things inside of the story, not the individuals that are associated with it. If you didn't see it, you didn't want to see it because of that, I think that is your prerogative, and I think that is your right. Anybody in general, but we're talking about the movie itself, and we're talking about all the performances, Ezra Miller included. So we wanted to make you aware of that. So if you're like, I can't support this person, and that's totally fair, but we're not going into that. That's not what this show is about. We've talked about it numerous amount of times. To be completely honest, I want to stop talking about it. We've talked about it a lot. If there's more information that comes out down the line and we find it, of course, but right now we're going to focus on the movie. And that being said, Ezra Miller's really good in this movie. Really good, because both Barrys, Barry was like, I don't like this take on Barry, the kind of like really eccentric and really like I always remember, and correct me if I'm wrong, I always remember him being a little bit more, I don't know, he seems a little bit more the Grant Gustafson, like,
Greg Gustin, yeah,
Greg Gustin. What did I say? Grant?
Gustafson.
Gustafson. So I don't, but I've seen the episodes enough to where I'm like, this always felt like the kind of version of Flash that I envision, right? Is that wrong? No,
Grant Gustin's like more of the comic golden age, more of that like hero, square jaw, does what's right, optimist. But I felt like Zack Snyder wanted a mix of Wally West and Barry Allen, and then what he got was almost Impulse, which is another Flash, and it's very like eccentric and big and bold and kind of like a twitchy. And I thought it was really interesting that it almost felt like a commentary on that character by having the hero's journey happen simultaneously at once. And it's basically like the Jungian experience of maturation and walkabout simultaneously between the one we've matured into, the older Barry, looking at his younger self, being annoying, and having to mature the younger one by way of him being better. But that also matures the older one. Yeah. And I thought having a simultaneous like dual arc was masterfully played. And the acting in doing that, I can't even imagine acting opposite yourself, maturing twice, and it being a commentary on the youthful exuberance that had to be grown out of.
So this is what Ezra Miller did really well. The 18-year-old was played as if it's an 18-year-old.
Yeah.
As opposed to what we saw in Shazam, where it was you're a
17-year-old and you're
playing a 10-year-old.
Like 12. Yeah.
Yeah.
This I believed because that 18-year-old was supposed to be annoying, and like the annoying laugh that he was doing and everything too. I'm going, oh, this is going to get annoying. And then I went, no, it's kind of fitting. It's pretty fitting.
That's why I was confused, because
yeah.
you kept saying that over and over. Before we had seen it and you saw it, you were like, there's stuff that Ezra's doing. I don't love the 18-year-old version.
Well, no, no. What I said was, in the beginning, as I'm watching it, I was like, this is going to get annoying fast. But then I'm like, no, it's what you just said. It's the progression.
It's
genius.
The understanding of this is how Barry would have been at that age had his mom not died. He would have been that way, almost not understanding
the ramifications.
The ramifications and not understanding. And it was really played masterfully inside of that, because the Barry that we knew, that we saw, and I thought it was a nice continuation for what we saw in the Snyder cut of Flash, because it was almost reminiscent to that scene that he did that they added, I think, in the Snyder cut that it plays into. I don't know why, but the barista at the freaking thing annoyed the piss out of me.
Yeah.
Oh, same. I think you're supposed to.
I think so too.
He was very punchable.
But I was worried that the whole movie was going to be like that. Like they were going to overcook it. Like everything is just like
a lot.
I mean, that was that scene. I'm like, is this going to be every scene? This
I was
kind of
also
humor?
worried about the allotness.
It's one scene, and then even when I saw it the second time, I'm like, okay, this is just this particular thing. I know where we go from this, because the humor, it was a nice balance. It was a good balance. The stuff that worked, the stuff that when he goes and sees the roommates in the multiverse, and they're talking about Eric Stoltz as
dude, that was such a genius,
really well done
multiverse joke. The Eric Stoltz of it all was so funny, because if you know the Mandela effect, if you know the casting of like a month in, all of that ties in, and then it's just such a simple little like splinter for like 20 minutes where you're like, why would it be Eric Stoltz?
But it's not just a bit,
plants
though.
you. Oh no, it's
because,
a story.
Right? No, because it's right. It's not,
genius.
because inside of that conversation, he also has to find out that Wonder Woman doesn't exist.
Yes.
And then like and
but they say it a first time, and you go like multiverse, and then it puts you in the world, and then it becomes a story element.
It does, because you can get that joke where he's like, look up Diana, or whoever he looks up, and it's like an old lady or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And it's like trying to find out, and then it's like, well, what about Batman? Oh, he exists. Nobody knows who he is, though. And we've seen the trailer, so we're like, oh, that's Keaton.
Yep.
And it was.
It's also a time travel movie
But
and a
that's
time
good
travel
writing.
movie. I
That's
love
good
that it's Back
writing.
to the Future that he's
Yes.
referencing as the multiverse
Yes.
thing, because we're in a time travel movie. Also, the thigh joke was so great because it was
Which
his
one?
calf. When when he lifts his leg and Marty McFly, and it's Marty McThigh, but it's on his calf, and he's like, "That's not even your thigh,
right,
that's
right,
your
right.
calf."
He's
Like,
like,
that joke
he's
was
like,
so
how about
funny.
now?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's still his calf.
It's hilarious.
Marty
Yeah, it's
McFly.
good.
No, my only other, I'm there with you. That my only other critique of the film, or something that didn't quite work for me, was our final villain. Was finding
Zod?
out. No.
Finding out that it was him. Yeah.
I'm fine with that, because that's actually a real storyline that they do as well. Even if it wasn't in the comics, I thought that was a nice. That's always been a nice twist that I enjoyed. My only issue is we kind of make that jump from that 18-year-old Barry to what's going to be the evil Barry, like that in that moment in a flash. Haha. I needed more time to feel that pain out of that.
It was
final.
rushed. It was rushed.
That part was rushed.
I agree.
And if you would given me that time to blow, especially what doesn't help in my mind, and that this is just from being the nerd that I am, having watched most of the Flash TV show, and we've done this storyline before, and you had time to breathe and figure out how this pain got here and how we could get to such a dark place like that.
Right.
I knew you essentially what you did was the whole adage of you're supposed to show, don't tell. You started to show, and then you were like, we got like 10 minutes. We're just going to tell them what happened.
Right.
And that was the only thing that I didn't quite vibe with.
Yeah, but then you know what they did very well to make you kind of forget it, because I felt the same way. I'm like, okay, this is kind of like the superhero ending that they had to rush together.
Was him with the mom in the grocery
dude,
store?
that scene was so good.
That was
So
incredible.
That's
Powerful.
They
That
have
was incredible.
She was so good. She's been in tons of stuff. I can't remember the actress's name, but the playing his mom. She was really, really good. You understood why he needed her in his life, and when he lost her, you understand it kind of lost. Also, it really explained the relationship and the bond that him and Bruce have because of that. And and you really get that more so in this movie. But that scene at the grocery store, man.
And Bruce I love that it ties him to Keaton immediately because he accomplishes the thing that Keaton's wanted to do for 50 years. Yeah. And it ties him to Affleck because Affleck understands his pain. Yeah. That one scene ties you to both Batmen. Easily. And I love that he basically, there's the trolley problem in most superhero movies, like save one or save a million. Right. It's save the universe or kill your mom.
Well, he doesn't kill her. He just doesn't. She
dies because of him.
It's basically allow your mom to be killed.
That's insane.
I know.
And that's a hero. Like, that's such a moment.
Sacrifice.
That's like the ultimate trolley problem.
Right.
It's allow your mom to die, the stakes of the universe.
Right.
It was so powerful because you actually felt that.
It was that moment, though, when he's hugging her with the tomato can and he watches himself go through it, just like all of it.
It all comes back to spaghetti.
Again, but it goes back to Ezra Miller plays that scene masterfully.
He's
like really,
they're
really
so good
well.
in this.
Really, really well.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, so the storyline that I know both from the show and from the movie of the Flashpoint animated movie was that it was Zoom.
I assume that's the sequel.
You think that that's what it would have been? Is that you find out that Zoom was the one that killed his mom?
Because we very clearly don't say it's anyone, and we say like we think it was someone that just broke in. Like we make it very clear. Yeah. So I think what I would do is if I'd had a sequel, I would make it so the Speed Force is happening, and that's one timeline, and then you realize that Zoom has to exist. In order to exist, he has to go back and do this thing. So that's why he's never seen, because he's faster than even that perception. Yeah. So then you have like an alternate running speed timeline to kill the mom.
To clarify for Kristian, whose face went fully blank here,
I started thinking about my taxes for next year.
So
Roth IRA, brokerage account.
So the Flash's one of his main villains, Professor Zoom. He's the one that you always see in the yellow and red, like the inverse colors. He's essentially inverse Flash. There's a lot of inverse speedsters that he fights. He lives in the future. He's a massive Flash fan. He wants to like be his homie, and he's like, nah, bruh, like you chill out. And he loses it, and he decides.
It's kind of like
screw it.
Kind of like Electro in the Spider-Man movie.
Yes. And so what he ultimately does is, because he's like, if I can't be with you, Barry, sort of situation, I'm just gonna wreck you. And it ends up being that he realizes
exact same story.
That's story. Yeah, they definitely Electro.
Which one came first?
Yeah. And so it essentially ends up being a situation where he then realizes in and of himself that he caused the Flash to be the Flash because he was the one that went back in time and murdered his mom.
Yeah.
And so that was the whole thing. He set all of the
they
dominoes
could actually tell you who actually did it.
And that's what I think the sequel would be.
Yeah, it makes sense.
And that's how you escalate a nemesis.
Sure. But either way, the emotion was really good. What I liked about how they started to set up the relationship, it was with 18-year-old Barry and then, I guess, 30-year-old Barry, we'll say. I loved how they played all that. I thought Ron Livingston was really good because he replaced
Alan Crudup?
Billy Crudup.
Billy, thank you.
Yeah, because I was watching and I forgot it. So yeah, that's right. Billy Crudup was. I wonder why they probably just couldn't get
scheduling conflicts. When they moved the schedule 6 months, they lost Billy, and he tried shooting too. Like Billy was like already filming, and then.
But I like how they kind of set up that whole thing and because they do. I was gonna say like subtly the food thing kind of goes away, but it doesn't. It's there a lot, and I like when he goes into the apartment and he's got no food in there, just the rotten broccoli.
Oh, I love the beer.
God.
Some of the jokes that shouldn't be funny were so funny.
But you know what I was hoping for, though? I was hoping that Green Chef was going to be there. Let me tell you about Green Chef, because Green Chef should have been there. If it was there, he wouldn't have been as hungry. I'll tell you about Green Chef right now. Green Chef, baby. Green Chef is awesome. It makes eating well easy with plans to fit every lifestyle. Doesn't matter what your lifestyle is, man. You're just looking to eat more balanced meals. Green Chef offers a range of recipes to suit your preferences. You can fill up with Protein Packed. It's their newest collection of recipes fit for a high-protein dietary preference. You can choose from 3 weekly menu items, including at least 40 grams of protein per serving. You can choose from 50-plus weekly menu and market items with the option to mix and match meals from different dietary preferences in the same box. If you're craving more servings from a favorite recipe, you can double the portions in your weekly order just one click. It is the #1 meal kit for eating well with dinners that work for you, not the other way around. Green Chef has options for every single lifestyle. It does not matter. It's great. It's so good, and I love Green Chef because I've been getting and you can turn different meals. I've been making like this stir fried for a bit since we started with Green Chef, and it's like lick my chops every time it's coming around. I know, I can make that stir fry. Green Chef, you're reducing your food waste by up to 23% versus grocery shopping. Welcome the spring season with delicious, easy-to-follow recipes that support your healthy lifestyle, and it tastes good too. Fact. Try balanced, crave-worthy meals fit for all dietary needs. Bring more flavor to your table this May with Green Chef's wholesome, elevated recipes. I take the chicken, put it in a stir fry. I love all the different, it's so good. Their chicken is no joke. You know what I love about Green Chef also is it gives you the ability to choose. You want all chicken, get all chicken. You want all beef, get all beef. Go to greenchef.com/thing60, but use that code thing60 and get 60% off plus free shipping. Again, greenchef.com/thing60. Use that code thing60, get 60% off plus free shipping. Green Chef, man, the #1 meal kit for eating well. All right, thank you to Green Chef. And I remember when I brought up Green Chef and Roxy went nuts. She's like, you have Green Chef? So my family was going out of town for vacation at the time, without me. But at the time, they're gone now. By the time this is up. But I got 2 boxes of Green Chef that showed up yesterday, and I'm going to be set for the week. I'm going to be grilling. I'm going to be making stir fried, and I'm set all this stuff too. And I'm telling you, once again, I've mentioned this many times over. If you want to help the show and you want to help yourself, try Green Chef. I had somebody go like, hey, I just ordered Green Chef to help the show, and man, am I glad that I did. Do it, because you're going to start doing it. You think it's going to be to help the show, and then you're going to realize I need to do it for me. F this guy. So get it. Use that code. Use Green Chef. They're awesome. All right, let's move back into the conversation. We got to talk about Keaton, man. Got to talk about Keaton. I'm right over here. What do you need? So it was amazing to see him. I love how they brought him in the old house and the stuff and like the samurai stuff. If you know the movies really well, when he shows up, and it immediately took me back to the '89 version. I love that even like the subtle hints of the Danny Elfman score that plays in there, and then eventually you hear the full theme. But all of that and the way that they play it, and where he's been hiding out, and he comes out, and I love that 18-year-old Barry is learning his powers through this, and he's just like watching him, and Bruce is flying all over the place.
Breaks off of the 30-year-old version, and the 18-year-old is just like, huh. Well, that's
he's trying to figure it out. It's amazing. But that whole scene, and then I love, again, we talk about the humor, right?
It worked when he's like, I thought this was the cousin's dinner. That shouldn't have worked for me, but it did.
It
shouldn't have worked, but it was good. It did. I love that. It was such a dumb joke. And he's like eating the spaghetti, and you're looking at, I love how much plot is based on spaghetti.
He says, wait, where's Batman? That's Batman? He's like, what do you think we were doing here? And like that whole,
shouldn't have worked. Just like the beers line I was going to say right before the commercial break was, I love that he gets the beers and he comes back, and then the 2-punch joke of like, the beers from the fridge where I keep them. That joke shouldn't work, but then it exploding.
Yeah.
Of course it would, because it shook, but it was so funny to me. And all of the humor in this landed more than I ever expected it to.
There were some jokes that I think here and there that didn't, for the most part, they did.
Yeah. Like 8 out of 10.
Yeah. And I thought that, and I didn't know. I thought it was going to be like, I think the stuff that didn't work for me as much as I think it landed for other people was the opening with the coffee scene. It's just that's like the guy, to me, the guy was trying too hard. He's trying too hard. But
I don't know that actor. It feels like
he was directed that way. He was directed that way for sure. It felt like the character was trying too hard. Like it was just like, okay, is that all I can do? Why is he being such a jerk to him? Just because that's the way baristas are? I'm like, I don't know. Anyway. It's such a minor gripe.
Yeah,
I think probably he's being that much of a dick just to point out how when you have super speed and you need everything to be like this,
right?
That this one dude that won't shut the f up.
I understand that. I understand the purpose of it. I just did that. I was just like, okay, let's just, like I said, I didn't want the whole movie to be that kind of humor.
Luckily,
it wasn't. It wasn't.
The only other thing that doesn't make sense to me about that when we came back, because I was trying to do the math. I was like, okay, all the time it took to get the babies, to save the car, even when he's not in the Speed Force, there's no way it took that guy that long to make the sandwich.
17-minute sandwich, maybe.
That's what I was gonna say, because it was at least even though he did certain things in a flash, the rest of that was like a good 15-20 minutes of real time.
12 to 15 minutes minimum.
Right, he had to get, and by the way, so the other thing,
the Wonder Woman joke was so
the
good.
Wonder Woman joke was incredible, and they introduce the way that Bruce comes into that scene, and how they have Batman come in, because it was a great opening, like minus the CGI stuff. It was a great opening and a great way to still you could see what Muschietti was talking about, the homage to the DCEU and the stuff that Snyder did and all those characters. And then when she shows up and the way she plays it and everything that they're going through with him, Bruce.
My ego's too big to admit I needed help.
It's hilarious. And then the stuff with
I
know what sex
give away my money.
I'm aware what sex is, but I've never had it or whatever. This is so good. But all that.
I'm glad Gal got an opportunity to really, since we
Kinda
really
close
don't
out.
know what's going on.
Yeah.
Both now this and Shazam. I'm glad that she got an opportunity to.
Yeah.
I heard they cut her, so I'm glad she wasn't. Remember there was rumors that like
I think she had a big. What I think happened, and could be wrong, but I think she had a bigger role to play. I think they cut it down, and whether that was a reshoot scene or whatever.
I loved it.
It was a great scene.
I mean, how great would it have been if both Clooney and Linda Carter had showed up at the court scene?
Man.
That would have been
Very
great.
good. But let's talk about Keaton, right? Because Keaton shows up in that scene, and everybody's. I mean, a lot of people are going to be going to see this movie because of Keaton. The question is, does Keaton deliver? And boy, does he!
and he's in it a long time.
And it's a great wrap up to the two movies that he was in, because it's what you said, like he was going through all this pain. I love the Joker thing when he's like, "What I found," when they found the little baggie thing.
And how annoying that would be to 30-year-old. It works for their story development.
totally
They got a
does.
Joker reference work
Yeah.
for the story.
The thing that I don't really understand.
Bag laughs.
Yeah, the only thing I don't really understand too much, but I was like, whatever, I'm just gonna go with it. When he loses his powers, right, the first time the 18-year-old Barry gets hit with the lightning and the chemicals go on him. Okay, I guess that's how you got your powers, and I guess that's kind of how you lost it. We'll go. It's a character plot, fine. But then, hey, I need you to hit me with lightning as many times as you can in that chair, and it's not working. So Supergirl is gonna take me up into the clouds and let me get hit by lightning. But I guess where's the chemicals?
So the
they're already on him, right?
The chemicals are already on him. I guess because the chemicals, instead of glass shattering all that, they just had it in the vials and it was just like kind of injecting it on him.
I think a more concentrated lightning.
It's happened in the story before, where the idea is how dangerous it is, and to really point of fact that like there is no reason this should have worked.
Right.
It was already a 1 in 1 trillion possibility that this would happen the way that it did in the first place.
Yep.
So I guess it's just exactly that, of just like, okay, you just trying to do the best you can. How badly do you need and want these powers that you're on death's door?
Well, again, I thought Ezra Miller played that scene.
Yeah.
On both versions of themselves, because you had younger Barry like don't do this, and then cutting off the Batman ears and making
so funny.
It's hilarious, and learning about the moments. But
Joker scar.
Which one?
Well, the fact that as he becomes the full on villain, like the Joker scar that he got, because the thing cut. Remember, he had that big cut in his mouth. I thought that was a nod directly to. That's how I kind of started to key in, because he ended up with the blade stuck in his arm.
Yeah.
Right.
But someone cut his mouth open, and he had to. And I literally thought to myself, you want to know how I got these scars? Because it was the exact Joker.
Interesting.
Yeah. So.
Well, yeah, but anyway, the way that they play that whole scenario, how you get there with Keaton, right, and how you have the Joker scene with the laughing and the play, the tie into it all, and then how he's doesn't want to be part of this, and then I love that scene. But I love that scene between Barry and him, where he's like, I know you're watching me right now.
Yeah,
and that's fun. And then he's because he's invested in it and he feels something in it, right? And he lets him go down there. It's like, he could have easily been like,
well, because Batman is Batman.
He knows Batman.
I think even with him being retired, him like kind of becoming this weird kooky hermit, because my other thought process was like, okay, well, where's Alfred? But I guess if Bruce is that old, Alfred must have died.
Oh, Alfred's dead.
For a while. Because that's what I also liked about, and we talked about this on Friday. I got the rules. I understood the rules because I said to myself at first, I'm like, well, wait a minute. If they're doing this the same timeline, like wouldn't Bruce be the same age as Ben Affleck? Like and he's like, that's not how time works. And he's like going into it. He's just like, the whole spaghetti thing.
Retro causal is genius.
Yeah, it's just like, you change one thing here and you change it, like you be.
And I love that that's more science based, because time isn't linear.
100%.
Like we have proven time is not linear, so it wouldn't make sense that we all run. Like I like the Marvel method if they can spell it out, but it wouldn't make sense that all these timelines are running parallel in that directive way, because time doesn't react linearly even on our planet. Like if you go to a high enough mountain, time's different up there than down here.
Yeah, for
so
sure.
I love the idea.
It's like Interstellar.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So the idea idea of retrocausality being time travel.
Yeah. Love. Well, but you know that planet that he goes to in Interstellar?
Yeah,
no,
I remember.
So different.
But
I remember it was he was down there 30 minutes and it was like 7 years.
Yes.
No, I know that.
Yeah, like that.
I love that movie. But the one thing that always took me out of it is that I don't disagree with the idea of like the connection, the love is what got us there. It's just having Matthew McConaughey flying through the fifth dimension. And they're like, so what is it? What's the secret? Love, Mom. Yeah. That's what'll get us there. Love.
You know that's how McConaughey thinks, though. You know that.
Of course it is.
You know that was an ad lib. They just filmed it. Yeah, he's got his bongos like love. They're like cut the bongos, keep the lines. True. But I thought Keaton did a really good job, not only explaining those things, but also I bought both his commitment and his not wanting to be involved. I bought the Alfred connection still. When you mentioned Alfred, it actually solved the problem for me that I've had for 30 years.
Okay.
I love that Alfred Go is the perfect Alfred. Sorry, Miles Go. What's the guy that plays Alfred's name? Michael Go? The original Alfred.
I think it's Michael.
Michael.
I think.
So I think Miles Go's a creator. Anyway, Michael Go, we'll call him Go. He's the Alfred for Batman.
Yeah.
And now, because of this storytelling, it works.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because the linchpin of the Batmans is there is an Alfred, and in those different timelines where they're all the same age, that could be that like Nexus being Alfred.
That's what I love.
I love that.
Well, that's what I loved about what Barry said. He's like, there's an Alfred there.
Right. And George Clooney had the same Alfred as Michael Keaton. It always drove me insane. Yeah. But it works in this way of timeline because they're all about 30.
And
genius.
Michael Keaton in great shape during this thing, and it's because he's taking athletic greens. I'll tell you that right now. He's definitely taking athletic greens. And then they could have built a suit, and they could have put Rumple all over it, and it would have been fine. It would have been great. Let's talk about athletic greens and Rumple right now. Our next partner is AG1, the daily foundational nutrition supplement that supports whole body health. I drink it every day. I love it. And I gave it a try, honestly, because Brett Sheridan told me to. And I'm glad that he did because it's so good. I love it. It tastes good, too. And I'm not a big vitamin person. I know that. You know that at this point. But to take them all in one shot, put it in a water bottle, shake it up, that's it. I drink AG1 before my coffee. And I take it gives me a little boost of energy, and then I'm ready to go. And it makes me feel unstoppable. I am ready for the day. I love it. It's really great because I'm telling you, it was very hard for me. Everyone's like, you got to take this vitamin, you got to take that, you got to do supplements. No, thank you. Give me one. Everything. One shot, done. And it tastes good. Might look green, hence AG1. Tastes yummy. I'm always looking for life upgrades, which is why I've come to love and trust AG1. That's why so many of you trust AG1. That's why I get notes all the time. You guys are trying it. Just did it. Love it. Re-upped. Doing it again. I keep getting it over and over and over, and that's why they've been so associated with this show. It's delivered to you every month. It's been very easy, super easy to make it a daily habit for me. And get those travel packs. I'm going to be going on the road soon, and I'll be taking that with me. If you want to take ownership of your health, try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase. You have to go to drinkag1.com/bigthing. That's drinkag1.com/bigthing. Check it out, baby. I'm so glad we're with Rumple, man. So glad I keep getting DMs and ats and all that stuff. People telling me, you were right. I love Rumple. And somebody said, I got one to help out the show, but I didn't realize I'm probably going to buy more because I love them. And if it wasn't for you and your show, it was just trying to help your stupid ass out. I wouldn't have done it. I'm glad that I did, and I'm glad they did. Rumple's on a mission to introduce the world to better blankets. They're made with durable, sustainable materials, and they're built to last. They recycle over 5 million plastic water bottles a year. They are B Corp certified, climate neutral, and they donate 1% of all their sales to environmental causes. I love these blankets because they don't fall apart. You can take them to a soccer field and sit on them there. You can take them camping, and then they have blankets you can just curl up on your couch and watch movies and TV with. I have a bunch of them that I do all that stuff with. They have over 135 unique designs, and there's a blanket for everybody. Yeah, they're not just for outdoors; they're everywhere. You can do it for everything. It's great. You got an outside area. You want to curl up and just look at the stars, do that. No? I just want to watch TV, do that. It's the best. They have cozy hemp, fleece, Sherpas, everything. Now, go to rumple.com/thebigthing. Use that code THEBIGTHING at checkout, and you get 10% off your first order. Rumple.com/thebigthing. Use that code THEBIGTHING. That's right, guys. Athletic Greens and Rumple. So excited. Once again, you want to help out the show. I've talked to you guys so many times about athletic greens, so many times, and there's a reason why everybody here, Winston, Coy, myself, swear by it. Told you about it. It's a reason why they've been now with the show almost a year. We've been with Athletic Greens for a long time, and they keep coming back because you guys keep signing up. So sign up to Athletic Greens, and I keep getting the comments. Everybody is satisfied every time they use Athletic Greens. And I've been seeing the same thing now with Rumple, which I love. Rumple's coming back. You see more spots of Rumple. We've been talking about Rumple more because people are getting Rumple. And when you get Rumple and you get your blanket, please take a picture. Someone said, "Oh, I was going to get Rumple, but it was a little too pricey for me." It's because of the quality, baby. This is the quality. It's not. If you really look at it, some of these, and I don't think it's that expensive personally, but when you look at it, they don't fall apart. I've had them. You take them I took them to my kid's soccer game. Put them. They're fantastic. So if you want to check out a blanket, you want to see one that's going to be durable, it's Rumple. It's fantastic. He's fantastic. Hey, listen. I also want to tell you about the documentary I have on Netflix right now. It's about me. I even mentioned Batman and Robin for a second. I did not mention about how bad it was, but I mentioned that they made a lot of money, and it did. And I could have done it again with the Mr. Freeze. Maybe they wanted to make it a little more serious, but they did not. It does not matter. It made money, and I bought whiskey and Lulu because of Batman and Robin.
I love this era of Arnold just like with animals in his house. I love
Did you see the clip
Arnold.
with him and Stallone?
No.
Oh, so Stallone, I think on his reality show goes over to Arnold's house because they're boys now, and they had so much beef.
Yeah, for years.
But they're boys now, and so it's one of my favorite clips. Whiskey and Lulu are in the house, and Stallone's like, "Oh, come on, man, what are you doing here? And you got to, don't you worry about them like going, going in the house and pooping in the front?" And he goes, "So what? What happens if that happens? You just clean it up. Who cares? It doesn't bother me." It's amazing.
I love their dynamic so much.
Yeah. Who cares?
Oh yeah, I got to see this.
Come on.
But
yeah.
I loved Keaton, but I said it earlier on the non-spoiler, man. Sasha Calle is my MVP of this movie. I honestly, she's the only one we didn't know. She's the only one that had to step into super shoes. Everyone loves Henry Cavill, deservedly. Everyone wanted Superman, and she was so good that at no point was I wish that was Henry Cavill. All because of her. Because we talked about the writing. I do think that like the way they wrote the movie, there was so much to do with Batman. There was so much to do with flashes. There was so much to do. She didn't have a lot of time, but every time she was on screen, I wanted more. Not like get me back to these players. I think Sasha Calle, like I cannot wait to see what she does next.
I was just gonna say the easy way to remember her name from now on.
Yippee-ki-yay.
Yeah.
That's what I said. She was like Bruce Willis.
Sasha Calle, motherfucker.
That's what I said. You guys thought I was crazy.
No, we thought you were talking about Willis.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
I was talking about
What you
Bruce.
talking about, Willis?
No, I was talking about
you
Bruce
mean- we
Willis,
thought you- no,
who is Die
no,
Hard.
I understand. But I thought you were talking about his last name.
Oh,
Yeah,
Sorry,
exactly.
yeah,
I was like,
No.
what? That's why I literally was like, what the fuck?
that's why I was saying it's easy to remember because Sasha Calle.
Sasha Calle has a very likable quality about her. She has a very electric feel about her. My biggest thing with her is nothing that she did wrong, just what I mentioned on Friday. She was the most underdeveloped out of everything going on because they were focusing, understandably, on the two Barry story and Michael Keaton. And they had to do exactly what you just said. They had to make you go, that isn't Henry Cavill, and it's not Kal-El. This is Kara. So
I mean, she's what? She's the C/D storyline, and she got introduced at the end of Act 2. So like, there's no time.
No, there's no
to do
time.
that.
There's no time. So it's really, it's nothing to do with her. I thought her performance was fantastic. I just went, and I think what you said was absolutely right on just now, and when you said it on Friday, was that it wasn't jarring in the fact like, oh, I don't care about this character. Let's go to the next thing. Never felt that. Always like, oh, I want. It was the opposite of that. I was like, oh, tell me more. And then she was gone, and you're like, oh, because I like that she was the opposite of Kal-El. Really, she was just like, I don't want to help people.
Yeah,
out,
why would I
right?
do this?
They're
You
not
haven't
gonna
given
help
me a reason for it.
But it also makes sense. I think that obviously she lands on Earth and she is able to live the life that he lived, even though the thing that's always been interesting about Kara is the fact that she comes in already as like a teenager. She's not an infant who's then raised from like So there's always this there's always this talk about kind of like adoption, the foster care system, and the idea of like when parents adopt a newborn versus an older child, and how that the personalities differ and things like that. But that's part of it is you didn't just do that. You tortured her for 20
she had the
plus
opposite
years.
of Mon Pa Kent, and she's still good. That's what I love about her character in the comics and in this is that she's got this edge to her because she was the opposite of Mon Pa Kent raised, but she's still good because hope. Like hope is so much easier to have when you've got a nurturing family in Kansas. Totally. Hope's really hard to have when you just got you're trying to help the people that tortured you.
Well, and you failed, and in your head you failed your mission.
Right.
Right, because like she was supposed to. Right, and when we get that reveal, because you start to, I wonder if that's part of the reshoots. By the way, I wonder if the reshoot was that Kal-El didn't die, and that's when Henry came in.
Oh,
and he was able, and like however,
I forgot he was supposed to be in this.
Yeah, he shot stuff.
Yeah,
and they cut it out. So I wonder if that was the case
at all. Which is weird that they cut it because they didn't have to by the ending.
If I had to guess, what they probably you're right, but maybe they're just really trying to
sure
sever the thing. I would guess that maybe Superman was in that opening scene. I think we got all of our Justice League assembled at that point.
Yeah, you're probably right, but it'd be interesting if that was indeed the case. You know, because they were going to make such a bigger push to have him
come back,
do more. But the stuff with Zod, and then again with Michael Shannon having him come back and like looking at like just the idea that you can try to change it as many times as you want. Nothing's changing. This guy's taking over because without Superman here right now, and the way that this went down, you set this stuff in motion in this timeline. This timeline cannot exist. It's gotta go away. And it's kind of like when you throw to Across the Spider-Verse, like that question I still don't really have an answer to be completely honest with you. And I don't want to spoil that movie for people who haven't seen it, but there's a particular question I asked you in that about, let's just say that a particular universe disappears and blows up. And I said, well, why does it blow up here but not there? And how come this person, and it's like, this made sense to me where it was like, well, okay. Because of
it shouldn't have started. It has to finish.
Yeah, it has to. It's because when he did that thing, there's this, and I like how they explained it. There's this one particular loop that'll just keep repeating no matter what, and that's why he took the shot with the can, because that doesn't mean the world's going to blow up if you change that particular moment. So I'm going to give it a shot, and my dad's free because of it. And I'm
he saved one parent.
Right, and he saved one parent, but got trapped in this new universe because of it.
Right.
This is why though. Again, and I won't get into this whole thing because it could be here for 4 hours. This is the type of time stuff that I F with.
Yeah.
Because when you listen to the way that time and space, all that stuff really works, that's why I like Back to the Future as much as I love it, drives me nuts. Because as far as time goes, because all of that stuff, like Barry is living in another, he's not living in his.
No, so there's no butterfly effect.
He's living in a different timeline.
Right.
Marty McFly is essentially living in another, when he comes back in that first movie,
he's
living in another universe.
Right.
He's not living in that universe.
It doesn't just come, because that time, but that's how their rules are for time.
It wouldn't be the same.
Side note though, let's not pretend like him moving the can isn't the same amount of messing with everything. Because think about it. The whole reason she died is because they put the can in the cart. So she had the tomatoes. She, he never had to leave all the murder, all that stuff, right? So putting the can on the top shelf is doing the same thing. It's like he learned no lesson.
No, he went as a separate trip. The dad wasn't with them when they were shopping.
No, I understand that. The reason, so the ending, the reason why his dad ends up free is because Barry moved the cans that he needed on the top shelf so they could see his face and get him out of prison. You have still moved a tomato can. You have still completely.
Yeah, but the mom had to die. She still died.
I understand. No, I understand that.
I don't know what you're saying.
No, but I'm saying, but you were saying the moving the can up to the top shelf wasn't that big of a deal, and you just kind of let the
it made it. It's a big deal because you got him out of jail.
Exactly.
Right.
So I'm saying both parents didn't have to have their lives ruined. Only one did. The mom's the thing that had to change. That way he gets his dad back, but he still went to prison, so it didn't cause as big of an effect.
Right.
So that can moving is a lesser effect because the mom still had to die.
Because all this stuff still happens the way that it did because
he's still in
Bruce
prison.
Bruce has to find the footage.
Still has to get
it has to get to that time.
Clean it up. So there's all the time with him in prison. And,
like everything.
That's why I was confused.
Right. Again, going back to Back to the Future. As much as one of my favorite movies of all time, he wouldn't be in that when he gets back from 1955. He wouldn't be able to see himself do exactly the same thing, jumping in against living
85
because he wouldn't be doing all this stuff because his life is completely different at that point. But Barry's is exactly the same because Bruce needs to find that footage. And
he's his own Eric Stoltz.
Yeah,
and I love that the Eric Stoltz joke works into the Flash continuity.
Yeah, he found the footage. And inside of that footage, this time it's not blurry. It's just it's the same chain of events that would happen. Nothing else is different.
Yeah, 15 or whatever years have to pass.
You can argue more so what scientists probably would. It was like the butterfly effect is that
something else would have changed.
Well, because like, look, if in my lifetime right now, I'm looking at this and I go, okay, I'm just going to put that right there. Okay, that's fine. And these words that we're having now has one train of thought.
Right.
But if I went to this and I knocked on the floor, I went, shit, so let me
That
pause
changes
it.
all
And
this.
I pause it and I think something else happens and it's more time. Our conversation, our thought patterns change. So
Right.
a lot can change inside of that.
Every single person shopping for tomato cans
Well,
has a different way.
I mean, and to that point,
True.
I guess that was where we got our. This did have a major effect. I actually am correct in what I'm saying because the major effect was, yeah, Bruce is not Ben Affleck. Bruce is George Clooney.
And George Clooney
Right.
knew Ezra, which I loved.
That's why I really like this because it did change. It changed things.
And we also don't know what else it changed. That's the only visual we have because all we lived
Right.
through was those 10 minutes,
Right.
which I love.
So there were consequences to it, but he's willing to live with those
And
consequences.
Kiersey might be different now.
Right.
She like their relationship might be different. They might have known each other. I loved Kiersey's relationship with Ezra, but it might be slightly different in that new universe.
But the question is this, though, because when he goes back to, and maybe they answered this and I don't know, but when he goes back to that universe, though, if it's a different universe, wouldn't there be two Barrys in the same one, the same way that there was two Barrys in
Right, but he just got back, so we don't like. He's probably gonna find him. He's gonna like.
So there could be.
There could be, and also his universe is now conceptually missing a Barry.
Yeah, right. That's right. So it's like, there's a lot to it, but who knows if it's even going to continue on? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. But the fights were great. You know, the way they played like that. I liked the end battle scene. It was a traditional kind of, a little bit more of a traditional.
I won't lie. I was
good.
spending all that time being like, bro, Batman and are not doing any damage to these Kryptonians.
I love that because they wouldn't. It's 1989 take on Batman. All of his stuff is old. He hasn't like upgraded his stuff. And it's Kryptonians.
The only way that Bruce was doing any damage to Clark was because he had a bunch of kryptonite gas bombs and a spear.
Batman would never be able to do anything to a Kryptonian without prep, and he didn't have prep. So I love that this Batman was just like bomb, and it just slowed him down.
Well, even when he blows up, you know, and he comes back, he's like, "Don't go in the force field." He's like, "Copy."
That's true. Shouldn't do that.
Yeah, right. And then he, you know, but he winds up still. And then the same fact that Sasha Calle keeps trying to get to her, he can't get to her. I thought that was pretty powerful. That stuff. It was.
And the blue and orange with the two flashes, they're different power set colors. I love because that also ties into Zack Snyder used a lot of blue and orange in his colors and his posters. So I love that we had a final fight that was blue and orange, but it had a thematic reason as opposed to just a color grade. Yeah. Like they even Muschietti even made the color scheme of Snyder have canon, which is genius.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, what else did we miss?
I'm trying to think. We got that. We got the cave.
Love getting to see Iris West.
I mean,
oh right. So tell me. So
yeah, Kiersey Cummins plays Iris West, and Iris West was supposed to be in like every time Flash appeared, but she kept getting cut. She was eventually in the Snyder Cut in that one great scene. But Kiersey Clemens getting to like be Iris West, who's integral to Flash lore. Like Barry Allen and Iris West are two of the only like they are forever together. They're like Clark and you know Lois, but we never got that. So finally getting to see Kiersey play this was so delightful, and I thought like their chemistry in that scene in the apartment was great. Her kind of like realizing she's being too much for a reporter and like a little too brusque. I thought what Kiersey brought in her like 7 minutes was so powerful. I wish we'd had more with her. I love that actress.
Yeah.
No, I think that's great.
So now the question goes to you guys. What did you think of the movie? Did you like it? Do you agree with our points? Disagree with it? Do you think it's really good? Do you disagree in the fact that A, you think it is the greatest superhero movie of all time? B, do you think that it is just okay? Or where do you think it stands? Because I would put this up there as one of the better DCEU movies. If we're
I think it's my number 4 when I looked at it.
Okay, so let me see if I mean, I'm a big Man of Steel fan, so I got to go back and check it out. But the Suicide Squad is up there for me too. So I'd put them in. I'd put all three of those together, and then maybe Wonder Woman comes in at number 4.
So it might be a rewatch for me because I don't know if I can answer that question. I haven't really seen the last thing I saw was Wonder Woman recently. I just had an inkling to watch it, so I need to rewatch.
I got personally Shazam, the Suicide Squad, Wonder Woman. This is my 4.
Okay.
And this and Wonder Woman kind of do-si-do because the third act Wonder Woman's pretty bad for me, but I do think the Impact and the No Man's Land, those things are like A+.
It was great. I just think this movie to me, I don't know. I have to watch this and Man of Steel again.
Man of Steel is right after this for me.
And the Suicide Squad is just
it's just so good.
It's just the different like, but I think we talked about this last time maybe. The DC as far as a DC movie overall that like just for fans, you know, like this is a superhero movie. DC the Suicide Squad to me is
its own thing.
It's its own thing. It's a great comic book movie, you know, for sure, but it's right up my alley with sense of humor and all that. But as far as like the Flash is like,
it's the pinnacle of that, and Shazam
is
personal to me, so I could see this being people's favorites easier.
Because it also plays more into, like we've mentioned, Back to the Future a handful of times. This is the DCU's Back to the Future. It really,
yeah.
I hope it has legs.
Well,
pun intended.
It feels very No Way Homeian. Obviously, not just from like the gimmick of it, but like as the homage to everything
Things
that came
in the
before.
past.
Like, and so because it focused so much on Keaton, and that's exactly what we got out of Maguire and
Garfield.
Thank you.
Gotcha.
Jesus, I need to eat something.
Jesus.
Jesus.
Green Chef.
Hey.
Yeah, that's it. But that's it.
So yeah.
All right, listen. So, all right, let's start with Koi. Where can I find you?
You can find me on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, starting a new series about comic books where basically if you like a movie, I recommend all the comics that goes into it. So I give you about 60 years of lore in 50 seconds. Check out those 3 platforms and here every Thursday, Friday.
That's the most Koyian thing I've ever heard.
A lot of Ians for you.
Yeah, a lot of Ians. You can find me at the Swag. You can find me at the Swag. You blurred on all the platforms, man. I'm really pushing TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. I'm trying to get all those numbers up a little bit. Get the TikTok to 1,000. Get the Instagram to 7. Get the YouTube to 2, and keep the push going. And I got a lot of new content on all of those. So please come out and say what's up.
I'm subscribed, yeah, man.
Hey,
you know
baby.
me. Hey, how you doing, Winston?
I'm
yeah,
good.
you chilling. See, me and you are buddies. Now, I haven't talked to this salty bitch since before. What's up? What's up, man, you pasty ass mother? How you doing? You know me? Do you even know who I am? I'm Big Balls McGillicuddy. You Conor McGregor looking mother.
All right, relax, Big Balls. Relax. Sorry about that. All right, thank you guys for joining us here today. Once again, hit that button. Subscribe to the channel if you have not done that already. Hit that button. Do it. Let the English see you do it. All right, we'll see you on the flip side, everybody. Capes and cows. Peace.